Hi, Misha here, and it's time to talk about something Polish. This is the W-3 Sokól, or Falcon, medium lift, multi-purpose utility helicopter, produced by PZL Swidnik, Poland, since the 1980s. And this helicopter has the distinction of being the first to be 100% designed and produced in the nation of Poland, and has served their military and been for export ever since the end of the Cold War. This model is from Amercom 1/72 scale diecast. But before we talk about it, let's revisit one we've looked at before. And this is a model from Altea, also of course a 1/72 scale. This is the MIL MI2. Specifically, this is the MI2T variant. So that sounds Russian, right? Well, it is, sort of. This was created as an improvement on the original MIL-1 helicopter. It was also the first turbine engine, turboshaft, in the Soviet Union. It was designed by MIL helicopters, and the first prototype, the V2, flew in 1961 there. But because of various reasons, production was actually transferred to PZL Swidnik in 1964. So even though this was a Russian design, it was made exclusively in Poland. And they actually, Swidnik would make a lot of these, nearly 5,500, and production would not fully conclude until 1998. Several variants were made, and these were used inside Poland, Germany, or East Germany, Russia, and elsewhere. They were also built for the military and civilian markets. In fact, Aeroflot was one of the primary early influences and desirers of this improved helicopter. So why did they choose Poland to produce this? Well, PZL actually dates back to before World War II, but the Swidnik factory, as it is, was founded in 1951, and then in 1956 it began producing under license the MIL MI1, the Soviet Union's first mass production helicopter that had the piston engine. So they had experience. In fact, they would continue producing the MI1 for several years after Russia had already stopped. So they transferred the MI2 design there, and it was very successful. They made multiple versions, like I said. This is the MI2T, which is the cargo version. There was also the MI2P, which was a passenger transport cargo version that could carry a crew of 1 and up to 6 passengers. They also had a land-based rescue version, the MI2RL, and a navalized version, the 2RM. It was pretty cool because it had a winch and it could lower a raft to the ocean or winch up a couple of people at a time. They had a reconnaissance version, the 2RO, and they had a few different armed versions, including the US, which would have one 23mm cannon. Various armed versions could be fitted with either 7.62 30 caliber machine gun pods on the sides, or some would have like door-mounted, cabin-mounted machine guns. There was an anti-tank version that could carry wire-guided missiles, and there was an uprated version, upgraded, the 2 Plus, that had more modern avionics and whatnot, and they actually planned to do the Mi-3 based on this, but it didn't take off the ground for various technical reasons, many to do with the engine. So, since that didn't happen, beginning in the 1970s, PZL saw a need for a larger medium. The 2 kind of is more of a light, at least it was light medium transport helicopter. This would be a medium 2 turboshaft engine design, multi-role, and targeted at both military and just as much civilian commercial customers all throughout the Warsaw Pact, the Second World, the Com Block, what have you. So a design team was set up, and the first prototype flew in late summer of 1979. And they would go back and iron out a few things, but not too bad. A lot of the stalls in the 80s in Poland had to do with budget difficulties. They also had the Solidarity movement. They had labor strikes. So it took a little while to put it into production. And low-rate production was finally authorized and the assembly line set up in 1985, with the first examples being turned out in 1986. Like I said, it was designated as the W-3 Sokól Falcon. And yeah, it's just a bigger version. Pretty conventional helicopter, really, but it is a little over 46.5 feet long, the fuselage, compared with the 2, which was a little under 37.5 feet long. The original one here could get up to about 120 miles per hour, but it preferred to cruise more around 100 miles per hour, and it had a max altitude of about 13,000 feet. The new version they developed could get up to over 160 miles per hour, and it could cruise at over 140. And it had a maximum altitude in excess of 16,000 feet. It had a standard crew of 2 and could carry 12 passengers when configured for that, or 2,100 kilograms in cargo. Whereas the original Mi-2, like I said, it could carry 6 passengers with a crew of 1, so 7 comfortably. The most you could really cram into this would be 8 passengers and 1 pilot, so a total of 9 versus 14 for the new one. Cargo, it could carry internally about 700 kilograms, meaning that the new version could carry 3 times the payload, and it faster and higher to boot. Multiple versions of this have been made, so I'm not going to break them all down. They were used as trainer aircraft. They were used, or it says they are, search and rescue has been a big part of it. There's also been armed versions. This is really just starting to go into production and thus military service, though, when the communist bloc began to collapse in the late 80s, 89, and then when finally it was all over, the Swidnik factory was privatized in 1991, which led to, of course, production issues and delays, as one would expect. Nevertheless, these would be ordered by the Polish military. They would be used by the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. In smaller numbers, they'd even be used by the border guards and police. Relatively small numbers in each, but still yet. In 1999, well, really I should say throughout the 1990s, a dedicated armed attack version was considered and really got to some pretty advanced stages, but in the end the project was canceled. What the Polish military opted to do instead was, as an interim solution, just fit some of their existing W-3s with weapons. And then long term they started looking at other candidates, for example the Apache, the Mongoose, the Tiger, the Eurocopter. But that didn't really go anywhere either. It's just a budget stuff. What they ended up doing around 2000, 2001 was upgrading some of their older Mi-24 Hinds and just keeping their W-3s and older Mi-8s in service. And serve they did. These would be stationed. First, Poland would send 3 to Iraq in 2003. This would quickly be 4, and a total of 8 different W-3s would serve in Iraq between 2003 and 2008. One would be lost in December of 2004 because of a crash due to an accident. So 3 were killed. These were used for several roles. The W-3WA was an armed version that could mount 2 23mm cannon, as well as up to 4 rocket pods or anti-tank missiles. It could also mount lighter machine guns if necessary. The W-3PL was actually an upgraded version that PZL first envisioned in 2001. The idea what they suggested is a kind of a cost savings measure to the Polish Army to upgrade around a dozen of their existing W-3 trainers to the W-3PL to be used as more of a search and rescue battlefield type. And in 2006, this was a suggestion was accepted and a contract issued to do this. And it actually went really well, to the point that talks began in upgrading a few more. And in 2012, a contract to upgrade 4 more was issued. The navalized version was the W-3RM, and these were used for search and rescue. They are often called the Anaconda. Only around 8 of those have been used by the Navy, but as many as 34 versions have been armed over the years. And around 24 have been upgraded to the W-3PL configuration. Over 150 Sokols have been produced to date. Many going to Poland, but also many being exported. An early user was actually Germany, who had early on, back in the day, well, East Germany I should say, fielded the Mi-2 US version, the armed attack version, as well as the P version. So they were one of the earlier users. The Czech Republic also fields a few of these. You can look it up. I think Korea has a couple. South Korea. But yeah, relatively successful design, all things said. It's also worth pointing out that in 2010, PZL Swidnik was purchased by Augusta Westland, becoming a subsidiary, having its products folded into their catalog. So they still have the W-3. They also have a new version, the SW-4, a small helicopter. But yeah, Polish. Woohoo! It said nothing really revolutionary about this design, but that's okay. Not every design has to be revolutionary. It is still a solid design, and has been in production since the 80s and flying with the Polish military for nearly as long, and doing a damn good job at it. I just thought I would mention it. Kind of goes along with the two. As far as the models themselves, just to say I did, as usual, the Altea, a little better build quality, nicer stand, but for an Amercom, this one isn't bad. The rotors attached pretty easy. Sometimes the rotors on the Amercoms can be challenging. The engine exhausts at their intakes at the top are actually loose on this one. They don't come off, but they're just like the glue didn't quite take. So I might try to take like a small toothpick and put just a dot of glue under them. They're not going to fall off, but still I'd like to have them a little more secure. But other than that, good model. As I've mentioned before, Amercom's quality control can be a little slipshod, so it's just to be expected. I don't mind doing a little light repair, as long as nothing's actually broken, as long as it's just like loose glue or something. But yeah, the rotors do rotate, and you do get a stand, so yeah, pretty nice. But Jay and I both like Polish stuff, so I thought I'd show the W-3 a little love tonight. Alrighty guys, if you have any questions or comments, please do post them below. And as always, if you could, like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you very soon next time.